Hello and hello. This is the very first episode of Two Woke Bonnets, a Little House on the Prairie podcast slash video. Video. What are we calling that? What do we call that? It's a podcast and a video log.
A vlog.
Vlog. There we go. Where we watch Little House on the Prairie and talk about the episodes. And for episode number 1, we're going to start with the pilot because you start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
It's actually episode 0 on IMDb.
It is. It's episode 0 because this was like a TV movie. Because they had bought the show and then they did the TV movie to see if they wanted to continue with the show, and it was, of course, a huge success. So, and you'll have to excuse our bonnets. They are a little small. I didn't realize that we had such big noggins.
No, I think these are more like Amish bonnets where they're smaller. Also, they were made in China.
So yeah,
Yes.
we'll be getting bigger bonnets for our big old noggins. So, and my cats will probably make an appearance at some point because they don't like me talking on the computer. So, Little House on the Prairie. We're gonna make fun of the show, but please note, we love this show.
We love it.
We love it.
It's from a place of love,
It is.
just like you make fun of your brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
So.
I grew up watching this show as it aired, and I've watched it pretty consistently as an adult. This pilot episode I rewatch it every Christmas because to me it's a Christmassy type thing. And maybe it's because the Christmas part of this pilot is my favorite part.
Yes. Yeah.
The episode, and we'll get to that. This one is based completely on, let me see if I can get it past the book.
Yeah.
The book of The Little House on the Prairie. From there on out, the show kind of does not follow the books at all. So
very, very little.
Very, very little. Names, and that's about it. So we'll probably bring up the book in this episode, but other than that, we're probably not going to bring up the books all that much because Michael Landon, who is the executive producer and the brain trust behind this show, kind of let them go.
Yes.
And you can tell he's the driving force behind the show because Pa Ingalls is front and center almost
every episode. Yeah.
This may be Laura Ingalls Wilder's story, but Charles Ingalls features very, very heavily in it. So the pilot. Oh, let's just start with what we're gonna do on these. We're gonna run down the plot. We'll talk about the story, but we're gonna keep track episode to episode of certain things. We're going to keep track of how many times Ma Ingalls yells, Charles! Karen Grassley does that so well. We're going to keep track of how many times Pa cries, how many times the girls are either kidnapped, held hostage, or lost. and we're going to go over like what the moral of the story was supposed to be, if they achieved it, and is this woke? And if you don't like the term woke, this probably isn't the podcast for you. Out of the lot. We are Two Woke Bonnets. For this show is now 50 years old. This aired in 1974. I'm old. The show was trying to be progressive for its time.
Yeah.
It doesn't always achieve that. Very, very little. Doesn't achieve that. But we love it anyway. So yes. we're also going to keep a list of Harriet Oleson's crimes, but she doesn't figure in this episode because we're not in Walnut Grove.
No.
We start in Wisconsin in the big woods, where Charles Ingalls, his wife Carolyn, and their daughters Mary, Laura, and Carrie are leaving for, they call it Indian territory. I'm going to use Native American from here on out because I don't like the term Indian. The books heavily use the term Indian, but they're heading to Kansas because they believe that land has opened up and they can homestead out there and build a farm. My first thought on this is like, what is wrong with Carolyn's family? Because they just eerily stand by the house.
Well, I wrote down in my notes, I didn't write very many notes this time, but it literally, Laura's little voiceover says that they were leaving due to hunger and there not being enough food to sustain them. And they leave all the people behind, all the old people. They're like,
we don't.
You know, here's young virile dad, Pa, that can go out and shoot animals, and he can't find enough game to sustain them, so he's moving on. Okay, that makes sense. But then you leave all the old people behind. How
Yeah.
are they supposed to be fed?
And
So
they don't wave goodbye. I mean, Carolyn hugs them, but then they don't move. They're
no.
driving away, and there's just this group of people eerily staring at them as they drive. And I know they're Swedish and it's Wisconsin, and they don't do a whole lot of the emotion. But come on, a little wave, maybe. We rely heavily on Laura's voiceover for the first few episodes of the show.
Yes.
Her in her remembrance book.
Yes.
Which
I don't remember that part at all. That was like,
it's not in the books.
no. Well, no. And it's like, if I was writing a remembrance book, and it was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's like the
She says it
first
a
3
lot.
episodes so far. So
Yeah, the first 3 episodes, she says it quite a lot.
yeah.
But they leave
It's
and they're going to Kansas, which is about from Wisconsin. I gauged it. I actually did a Google Maps thing. It's about 700 miles. And they're doing this in a covered wagon. And Jack the dog, their trusty watchdog, apparently had to walk the entire
hello. Like, also, I mean, no timetable, right? Like, who said you had to leave in the middle of the snowstorm?
Yeah, you had to
Like,
leave.
it's snowing, people. Why is today the day you have to get in the wagon?
No. Yeah, they leave with snow on the ground, which seems kind of silly. Why would you not leave? Because this is going to be like, I would say 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Why would you not leave in spring?
Well, I understand that maybe they had to leave now because they were afraid of starving,
But
but
at that point,
like, maybe pick a different day.
and they
Like,
have to
one
go
more
through the
day.
journey. Well, I suppose probably is like hunting during their journey.
Yeah.
But the first major crisis they encounter is a river. And okay, is this just me, or did this river look completely flat when they drove up and then wasn't completely flat when they drove through it?
Correct.
It like went from 2 inches to 2 feet really quick.
Yes.
So they go through the river, and once again, poor Jack the dog is running after them.
Right.
And
like, he's running in the snow. He's just running.
He's running in the rain. They're putting him out under the wagon during rainstorms. It's kind of like, come on, treat your dog better, people.
Hashtag justice for Jack.
Yeah, justice for Jack. But this is the first instance we get of Charles, because he goes under the water trying to get the wagon across, and Carolyn screams. And they get across, but they lose Jack. And they can't find him. And Charles is you can tell by Michael Landon's acting that he's upset, but he doesn't want to show it because he wants to be strong. So he's very dismissive. Oh, well, we don't have a watchdog now.
Yeah. And so flip to the next scene where now Laura is walking by the wagon, and it's not until a few minutes in that you're told that she's doing it because she's upset, because it looks like, well, now we don't have a watchdog.
Laura, get out there and watch.
A watchdog.
Get out there and fulfill Jack's duties, Laura. And you're walking the rest of the way.
And they're like, Laura, get in. And she's like, I'm fine. And it's like, okay, wait a second. There's certain times where like dad barks and the kids jump. And then here she's walking for miles madly, and they just let her do it.
Let her do that. But they stop and they hear something. This is like 2 or 3 days later. They stop, they hear something, and it's Jack, and he's followed them. And this is the first time
he was like, I will say this, he was very muddy and dirty, and he looked like he'd been through a bit.
And Jack, the dog they chose for Jack, doesn't look like a watchdog.
No,
he's a
it
fluffy,
looks like a lap poodle.
Yeah, he's just this fuzzy ball of fluff. And I don't know what he's going to do if you have a big problem other than bark. So the whole watchdog thing is kind of like maybe get a bigger dog.
Well, they didn't say guard dog. They did say watchdog.
They said
So
watchdog. So I suppose he's just barking and alerting them.
alerting them that something's happening.
But this
So
is the first time that Paul cries.
yes.
And thanks the Lord for bringing back there's going to be a lot of Christianity in
Over
the show.
yeah.
Hardcore family values, hardcore. Except when it isn't.
But are they more Protestant or are they more Catholic? They're more Protestant,
They're
I
more
guess.
Protestant. Yeah, they're more
Yeah.
Protestant.
But it's more like Episcopal
Yeah, they don't do any. I'm
versus
assuming they don't do any sort of
Baptist.
mass or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen Reverend Alden hold mass in the church. So, so they get Jack back and everyone is happy. And they get to Kansas. Oh, along the way, they sell their horses and get new horses.
Pony.
Ponies. Yeah, they're ponies. They're younger. This is one where this is the second Charles because Laura looks under the horses to check their sexes. and Carolyn's like, Charles. And she's getting mad because Laura knows what a penis is, I guess. But we also find out that the one of the ponies is pregnant. So they're marching a pregnant horse cross country. I don't really like it.
Yeah, now ponies are supposed to be hardier stock. They're a little more stout. They're a little more lower to the ground. So they're able to better, navigate versus horses. But yeah.
And you'll notice that once again, Jack is running behind the wagon. You almost lost him and you're still making him walk to Kansas.
Yeah. Well, and I get part of it because there's not a ton of room, but also you never really see Mary walking behind. It's only Laura.
No, Carrie, of course, is like a toddler, so she gets a pass. But Mary almost never. I mean, you see Mary helping Mom with laundry.
Yeah.
When they get the horses, but they get to Kansas, and this is one of the things where I started to get irritated with Charles Ingalls because they're having breakfast on the prairie, and Laura is like licking molasses off her fingers, and her mom gets mad at her. There's no need to be uncivilized just because we're hundreds of miles away from civilized people. And Charles goes, I don't think the people of Independence would look kindly on you, calling them uncivilized, because we're close to Independence, Kansas. And Mom's like, oh my God, we can go see people. And he's like, we're not going. I'm like, well, why bring it up, you ass?
Yeah. And he's the only one that ever goes to town.
Yeah. He never brings the kids.
He never brings
his wife.
Brings her. So like terrible things happen to these people while they're out there
for a week, because this is where he finds the plot of land that he wants.
Right.
And they immediately start breaking ground for a house. And here, kudos to Carolyn Ingalls, because she's helping him build a house. She's helping him mind the kids. She's doing a lot.
Yeah, she's very woke. She's very progressive. He has no problem with her doing the heavy work.
Yeah, she's raising, beams and stuff for the house. But she can't get everything up to the roof, so he has to find help to get like the upper part of the house done. And he finds Mr. Edwards, who is another homesteader down the river. Mr. Edwards, who will come back. Yes. So, played by Victor French.
Yes.
One of my favorite characters. Although here, every time you see him, he is not helping. He's just talking with the girls and teaching Laura to spit.
Yes.
I'm like, maybe help with the roof.
Yeah.
But he helps Charles finish the house and builds a stable, and I'm assuming a well. Oh no, because they're still bringing water from the stream.
From the creek, stream. Yeah.
Carolyn is refusing to go and wash clothes at the stream because that's how the natives do it, and she's not a native. And I'm like,
she's not doing that,
honey. You don't have a washing machine. You can move your butt down to the stream and wash your clothes. This is one of many slights to Native Americans in the pilot episode. I will say the book is worse. All of those little flags are questionable attitudes toward Native Americans. So they toned it down for the pilot. They're trying to be woke here when it comes to natives. I will say this, because they change a very crucial thing. Well, I'll get to it when they leave. The reason why they left,
Yeah,
is changed. So they build a house and they start, dad is trapping and hunting for furs so he can get a plow and seed so they can have a farm. And it's just kind of, at that point for a while, it's just hardship of building a homestead.
right.
It's pretty realistic. You're miles away from everybody. I can't even imagine. I'm an introvert, but I can't imagine being that isolated.
In that small of a house.
Yeah.
Because remember, the size of the house, the original roof, is the canvas from the Conestoga wagon.
Yeah.
So that is as big as the house is. It's not that much bigger than what was the wagon.
Yeah.
Except for it's just the top and where the Conestoga had down the sides. So maybe they gained 4 square feet.
Yeah. They
So
have
it's
3 kids.
yeah.
So everybody is
Carrie gets her own bed. What's up with that? But
yeah, she does. I'm like, the entire show she gets her own bed.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe she's a snorer.
It's
Anyway.
that double personality. Hint, spoiler.
Yeah.
Lindsay.
There's a hilarious scene where Ma is sweeping the dirt floor and Charles gets irritated with her.
Well, it's like, how do you know it's clean?
She's totally passive aggressive here. Because he's like, I don't know if you're gonna clean that dirt floor. It's like, it's the only floor I've got.
Yeah. And between Ma and Pa is the more woke one.
Yeah.
So
because Ma has already stated she does not want to meet any natives.
No.
Mary is with her. Just and I'm like, you're in their land?
Yes.
Why would I think actually Laura actually says that. Why would we come to Indian territory if we don't want to meet any Indians?
I know, seems kind of counterintuitive. Just gonna say.
So we get to Christmas time and she has a wood floor now, so that's good. She can sweep.
Can I just point out too, when Pa figures out where he wants this house to be, it looks like this.
It does.
Where is the wood from? Where did they get the wood?
Well,
there is no wood.
Hunting, and there's like trees and hills, and I'm like, where in Kansas is this? Because I know Kansas isn't as flat as Nebraska, and I've driven through both, but where is this? Granted, it's not in Kansas, it's in California, which is where they filmed it.
Well, actually, some of the initial scenes from this pilot was not filmed in California.
Oh, good.
And when Charles, I looked up IMDb. You read the book, I read the movie.
You read the IMDb.
Yeah. So part of the thing is that because Michael Landon knew that they had bought the series, even though this was the pilot, he went ahead and filmed certain scenes while they were in territory with real snow,
awesome.
With real stuff, standard stock footage shots, so that he could use them again in the first season without having to use fake LA snow and all that kind of stuff. So I will say that some of this was filmed on location and they took advantage of that. But I do feel like he took the things of him being in the woods and stuff like that is like in Minnesota, not Kansas. I've driven through Kansas. This is what Kansas looks like. Yeah. I was very terrified my car would break down in Kansas because there's nobody for miles off the highway. So yeah.
It's kind of obvious. Certain shots, it's kind of obviously not Kansas.
Right.
Where
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Yeah. The hunting scene with the wolves in particular, I'm like, where is this? And how far is it from home? Because I don't remember any mountains like that or hills like that. And there's no trees. You're right. It's like shrub brush near the house. So I don't know where he's
And
getting
yet
all
they
of
got
these
all these trees to do this. So
because it's a
yeah,
log cabin
yeah.
and they're not like tiny logs. So
No. I mean, now I will say these are tinier than,
then
you
like
know,
yeah,
future
they're
episodes.
not like huge, but it's
But
still, I don't know where he got them.
yeah,
Um, and enough
like
wood
he
to
didn't
build.
go close to town because it
Yeah,
takes him a week to go and do all this stuff. Also, what is he doing for the week? Is he working to earn this stuff? Is that why he's gone for a week?
that
That's why it takes so long. And then also, like, he had to go somewhere far to get the wood. So anyway,
yeah, so
sorry.
the time, the distance thing here is all over the place. Plus, he traps enough to get fur, and that's he uses that to buy a plow, um, and seed.
And again, like these animals are not, we're seeing rabbits. We're not seeing him kill buffalo or something.
Yeah,
So
there's no buffalo. He doesn't kill the wolves, which to me is like you could
that's
sell those
me.
pelts.
Yeah.
Um, they probably get a bigger price than the rabbits you're killing. And he also finds turkeys pretty easily for Thanksgiving or for Christmas.
Yeah.
But Christmas comes and it's my favorite time because Mr. Edwards saves Christmas because they're it's going to be a lean Christmas for the girls. They don't have a whole lot of presents. They're in the middle of nowhere. At least they do have glass windows now because apparently when he went to Independence, he bought glass for the windows.
Yeah. But
Those
it's just
pelts
two
matter.
windows in the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mr. Edwards makes the trip from Independence to their house. And it doesn't look like he rides a horse. He walks the entire way in his long johns, falling
Yes.
into rivers and freezing himself to bring the girls presents and to bring sweet potatoes to mom. I will say, as a child, this scene started my love of sweet potatoes because I wanted to
They
taste.
were such a luxury to
They were
her
such a
that you,
luxury that I wanted to taste them. And I've always preferred non-canned sweet potatoes because
oh
of,
yeah. Yeah. I don't like canned sweet potatoes.
but
It's kind of like the scene from Lion Witch in the Wardrobe where they, when you're reading the book, they talk about Turkish delight.
oh yeah. And then you
And you're
taste it
like, I
and you're like,
just want Turkish delight. And then you try it and you're like, okay.
Edmund,
At
you're
least sweet
awesome.
potatoes were actually sweet potatoes. So
Yeah, and they're
I
actually
love
good.
them. Yeah.
I
I love
maybe I just haven't had the right Turkish delight, but every Turkish delight I have tried, I'm like, Edmund, you sold your family for this crap.
I
And
know. Bad choices.
uh Mr. Edward saves the day and the girls get their own cups for Christmas and candy canes and a cookie with sugar sprinkled on top and a penny.
Yes.
And mittens.
And those pennies are important, people,
Yeah.
because they get a
Yeah.
penny, but they never get to go into town.
They never get to go to town to send it. They should have saved that for country the third episode where they needed the
Spoiler.
spoiler
They,
alert.
they will come around later. So you did, I think we skipped over the Indian encounters.
Oh yeah, because when Pa is gone to Independence, two natives come in and they visit, but they're here I'm gonna
No,
say,
there's, well, there's
yeah, this
two.
is the first two. The first two that come
First two
in.
come in, not
Oh,
to visit, not to visit.
this is when Pa is hunting, and this is when Laura's just a little she's a little bitchier because they come in and Carolyn gives them his tobacco, which
Right.
I guess he's hoarding from Wisconsin. But she gives him the tobacco and some cornbread
And the knife.
and the knife where they destroy pillows because apparently Native Americans don't know what pillows are.
Well,
Um,
and they also feel her up. They
they
feel up
start touching her hair.
and start to touch
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. Um,
And that's when she gives them,
this stuff. And they
well, the
leave.
one guy tears open the pillow and that distracts the other guy for a second. Sorry, I lost my bonnet. I hope that doesn't. I once got in trouble at a Russian church because you're supposed to keep your head covered and it never stays on. Anyway, uh but yeah, so they that's when they rip the pillow and that's when the feathers go everywhere. So she
And
should
they
have been happy
leave.
for the turkey because she had more feathers to stick in there, although they're
Yeah.
not the same.
And
But
they leave, and Pa comes back, and Laura's like immediately, bet you want some tobacco to smoke, Pa? Well, you can't.
well, also justice for Jack moment, because she went to go untie him
Yeah.
to send him in there because Carrie and Ma were in there alone, and she wanted to help save them. Now, if she had sent him in, Jack probably would have died,
Yeah.
would have probably been killed. It would have escalated the situation. But Mary says, no, Dad said no.
Throws
Dad
him on
said
the ground.
no. The one time Mary steps back, because the whole time they're in there with the Indians, she's a frozen statue. She
Yeah,
does
she doesn't do anything. And Pa gets mad at Laura because she thought about untying.
untying. Well, she actually, yeah, she was.
So yeah, but Laura's just a little. Bet you want some tobacco, huh? Like, damn, Laura, you didn't even wait for him to sit down.
Yes. So that's the first two visitors. So they do leave after they get the tobacco, the cornbread, and the knife.
And then the second visit,
And then Ma sits there with the gun all night.
Yeah.
Until Pa comes in. And then Pa, knowing that this happened while he was out doing, that's when he goes to Independence for a week.
Yeah.
For a week.
And I'm like, oh my God, do you just, dude, a little bit of safety for your family.
Yeah.
But they do get they get another visit, this time by the chief. This is the Osage tribe. And the chief comes to look at the house because this house is on their land.
Yes.
In real life, not on the TV show, but in actual real life, and not in the book, because Laura Ingalls Wilder there's a reason why these books are considered historical fiction and not memoir. The Ingalls family were squatting. They were not supposed to be there. They were trying to get a head start on the land rush that would happen once Kansas opened. So they were literally on Native American land. So it's no surprise that they're like coming over going, what's this house doing on our yard?
Yeah.
So, but he's actually not violent in any way. He's just curious.
Yeah, as is Laura.
Yeah, and he gives her a bear amulet, a bear claw.
Not the good kind, not the bready kind, but like
the actual, not the delicious apple filled, an actual claw, which we never see again after this episode.
No, we don't. But she hangs it around her neck and wears it. Yeah,
because it's supposed
to. So the first time he comes alone. The first time he comes alone, and he speaks French, and Ma understands enough French to know a few of the words that he's saying. Or
well, kinda. It's
kinda. She knows one or two of the words. She doesn't try to speak back to him. She just, knows one or two.
Sits there and stares. Pa actually shares a pipe with him, and that's that's the encounter. He's mostly just curious to know why these people are here, I think.
And who's there.
Who's there. Yeah. And then Pa comes back from Independence and they start their farm. And that's
he has a chance to work with some unknown, unseen people for a day.
Yeah, to get a cow. Yeah, this cattle that apparently needed help on a cattle run, and gives him a cow and a calf as payment.
Yeah, but he comes home exhausted.
Yeah, because apparently riding a horse is not something he does often.
Not that way. Yeah. I don't know. Not as a cowboy. He's saddle sore by the end of the day. So
yeah. But now they have fresh milk and butter.
Yes.
I'm like wondering where Ma is getting vegetables for her stew.
Yes.
She constantly is making rabbit stew, and I'm like, where are you getting vegetables? Is it just rabbit and gravy?
Well, or maybe a stockpile of flour or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because we don't see a vegetable farm in this location.
No, he's planting corn.
No. Yeah.
Because we see, I mean, we progress pretty far because that corn is pretty high. when they leave. So he starts his farm and they're just being homesteaders. And that's when they start hearing drums because um, the natives are not happy that there are homesteaders all over the place.
They are restless.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're restless. And then a prairie fire starts, and Carolyn is convinced that the natives started it. They want to burn them out, and it's like, well, you kind of are on their land.
Yes.
But this is the third Charles we get because he's putting the barn out, and he gets a little torched. But
Well, the roof, she can't reach the roof. She
can't
keeps
reach the
flinging
roof.
water up.
And it's just coming right back down on her. It's like poor Karen Grassley.
And this is where they take Carrie and just sit her in the river, crying her eyes out because they don't want her to burn. Well, at
Totally
least
just
not her
throw her in the
bottom to
river.
burn, just not her bottom or her legs, because she has to walk behind the prairie wagon next. I don't know. But like they stick her in the water because she's not doing anything. And the two girls go and get water by her, but never say, it's okay, Carrie, or anything like
Comfort
that.
her in any way. She's crying, and I'm like, oh, poor little Carrie. This poor little actress just sitting in a freaking puddle of
Your
water.
job is to sit in a bumpy wagon, sit on Ma's lap on a bumpy wagon, watch these scary people come in and touch your Ma's hair, and then sit in water. But you know, you get paid per line, and you didn't get any lines. So
You didn't get any money. I think she said
you get daily rates. Sorry
yeah,
about that.
I think she said maybe 6 words in this entire episode.
Yes. I don't think she says anything. I really don't.
She said, Pa's a cowboy.
Oh yeah.
And then I think she called Mr. Edwards Santa when he came in covered in snow.
Okay.
But
in his red long johns.
In his red long johns, yeah.
Because he was trying not to get them wet, the rest of his clothes.
Not to backtrack to Christmas again, but can we just say the shot of Ma taking kindly to Mr. Edwards with the little glowy and the music is like, okay,
yes,
you're up for an affair.
I feel like in future episodes, because we didn't talk about this to do it, we need to keep track of knowing glances.
Knowing glances, yes. Because this was just like, oh my gosh, you guys need a room? There isn't one. Sorry, this is the only room.
I know they don't have a room in this episode. They don't have their own room. So
they put out the fire. Carolyn, I'm calling her Karen because that's the actress. Carolyn is convinced it's the natives. And then the army shows up and tells them they have to, first the chief shows up and says that there was a huge gathering and that he talked them down. He has an interpreter with him this time.
Yes.
And incidentally, can we just say they're treated as like the natives are treated as like they're unintelligent and kind of uncivilized. Here is a chief that speaks 2 languages. He speaks Osage and he speaks French. And the guy behind him, who's a member
speaks Osage, French, and English. Yeah.
They're a bit more civilized than you lot, who didn't even bother to learn a word of Osage before coming onto their land. So he comes and says that he talked them all down because they were thinking of rooting out all the homesteaders, and they have pled for peace, and they're going to talk to the government, which they do. And then that's when the army shows up and says, yes, they talked to the government and they've redrawn the land and you're on the wrong side.
Yeah. Thanks for building all this stuff.
You have to leave. Sorry. You would think Charles would go, okay, where can we move to? Where's the line? But no, because we have all this wood. We could just tear down the wood, move the wood, and rebuild the house.
Yes, but because remember, Prairie. It's not Prairie. A lot of other places for wood. Take the wood you've got. Yeah.
But no, they pack up everything and head back east. Decide to go back. Well, they say they're going back home, but they end up in Walnut Grove. Most wretched hive of scum and villainy. But and that's it. They leave the cows for Mr. Edwards. They say there's a cheerful goodbye to Mr. Edwards. We get Pa crying one more time.
you get a slight hint of the fact that Pa, although Michael Landon plays him nobly, is not as noble as you would think, because he says to him, I'm sorry I never helped you finish your farmland. I'm sorry I never got over there.
He never
Like,
went to Edward's place.
now we know that Edwards hung around a lot and
Yeah, and
did
ate
more
food.
spitting than he did splitting of wood, but
Seriously, not once did you go over there to help him.
he never went over there to help him.
Not once
Never
did
went.
Ma carry over some cornbread and say, "Hey, I made extra." No,
Yeah.
but he at least he gets a cow and a calf out of
Well, she sighed and said, "Would you like to stay for dinner?"
dinner. Yes,
It was very put upon,
yeah,
but
until
yeah,
Christmas, and then she looked kindly on him.
yes.
But they leave. They leave the plow there.
They leave the cow and the
The calf
foal.
for Mr.
Yep.
Edwards. They take their horses. There is a foal now because one of the horses, Patty, gave birth, and then they just leave. I don't know why he says the plow is too heavy, but
There's no room for it. He says there's no room for it in the thing.
you would think that expense, particularly considering the next episode,
Yeah,
you'd try
but
but they don't. And that's
they
that's
do
kind
not.
of the end of the pilot. So
Yeah.
we have a total of Carolyn screaming Charles 3 times. Pa cries. Oh no, Carolyn screams Charles four times. Charles 4 times. Pa cries 3 times. We don't have Harriet Oleson here, so we're not doing that. But that's the pilot episode. This is actually kind of a woke episode, except for its treatment of Native Americans.
But you always have to have somebody opposing
Yeah,
the proper viewpoint. So I think Carolyn is actually the foil of the old way of thinking
yeah,
and the new way. Now, I do want to point out one thing because you see it here and we will see it in future episodes. But did you notice the letters on the mantle?
yeah.
There is a pattern on the mantle, and if you look at it closely, it says CICI, and that's for Carolyn Ingalls and Charles Ingalls, or Charles and Carolyn.
Mhm.
Nothing for Mary, Laura, or Carrie. You
No,
screw that. But CICI. So it was something I hadn't really thought about beforehand, but it is there. So that is one thing. The putting of the China Shepherdess was always something in the books that
Mhm.
indicated you were home. And then the carving of the CICI on the mantle is always a sign that this is their home.
Yeah,
So those two things did happen in this episode. So that was interesting. Now I will say that this was adapted by Blanche Hanalis, and you will actually see on every single episode since then, it will say developed for television by Blanche, but this is the only episode
the
she
only
wrote.
episode. After this, Michael Landon pretty much took over. It will
Well,
also say
yeah,
Ed Friendly. Ed
yeah,
Friendly had very little, although Ed Friendly owned the rights to Laura Ingalls Wilder's books,
yeah.
so he had to be listed.
And I apologize. Earlier I said he shot those scenes on location. Those were in Tulum County, California. So they still were in California,
But
but
they
they were
looked more
not in
like,
Hollywood.
yeah, they weren't
So
like a lot or anything. It was actually like it
it
was
was in
actually
Northern California, which is more towards the Canadian border, as opposed to Southern California, where the rest of the stuff would be shot.
yeah.
So
Now in real life, in actuality, they weren't kicked off the land. They left before the army could tell them to move because the land did not open up, and they realized that they were going to be told to leave. And so they left kind of like middle of the nightish and just kind of headed out before the army could kick them out.
yeah. Now I will say this, one thing that they did point out in IMDb is the rabbits that you see are not prop rabbits. Those are actual past rabbits.
Okay.
And Melissa Gilbert talks about the fact that when she first saw them, because this was really the first film set she was on, Michael Landon told her that the rabbits were sleeping and that she couldn't disturb them. So But she said she was glad that she didn't know that. Also, this is the only episode where Carrie's the credits for Carrie say Green Bush as two names. After
Yeah,
that, they
it's one.
squished the name together as one. So
Yeah. And it always confused me until an episode further down the line. I thought the actress's name was Lindsay Sidney
no,
until a
it,
certain episode, and then I'm like, oh, this is two actresses.
yeah,
They
yeah,
needed kind of like um Full
Mary
House.
Kate, yeah,
Yeah, they needed
Ashley and
two.
Mary Kate, and anything else, Colin and Cole and Dylan Sprouse, anything like that.
Yeah, because you
That
needed
because
two.
you were limited on the amount of time you could use a child under a certain age. And so it was better to have two. Plus, oftentimes one twin will be more outgoing and is better at the speaking scenes, and another one's better at being chill. So,
Yeah. So this one isn't really, there's nothing really outrageous about this episode because it is very
other than
based
leaving
on the
the
book.
poor people
Yeah,
to
other than,
die
and I'm
at the
sure
beginning
that happened,
and
but
constantly abandoning his three girls.
good Lord. I already reading the books as an adult, it becomes obvious that Charles Ingalls had ADHD and had problems focusing.
Yeah.
Um, he is not the Michael Landon Charles Ingalls at all.
Yeah. Michael Landon brings it to a level that is not real.
Realistic.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the real life Charles Ingalls moved his family all over the place, couldn't get a business going anywhere pretty much. And it wasn't until Carolyn just put her foot down in South Dakota and said, I'm not moving anymore. This is it, that he actually settled.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're moving three young girls in winter cross country is just like, dude, do you not have a brain?
I have concern for your family.
Yeah.
You just want more for yourself. And so you're not really taking into consideration the impact. But
I do like that when they're growing the corn, they're standing out in the corn. Carolyn brings him water, and he's like, I could live here the rest of my days. And she's like, you said that about the little house in the big woods. Yeah.
all right.
But that's the pilot episode. So here ends our first episode of Two Woke Bonnets. Um,
Yay.
we love Little House. We hope you love Little House. Join us as we watch all of the Little House episodes. And
Yes.
we'll
And
see.
we've been watching them on Peacock.
Yes,
So
yeah, everything
if
is on Peacock. All of the episodes and the 4 movies that happened after are all on Peacock. So if you're a Little House fan, get yourself a Peacock subscription. It's not all that much. I do own the first 4 seasons on DVD, but I've been watching them on Peacock because it's easier than finding the DVDs. So in our next episode, we will take on the first 2 episodes of season 1, A Harvest of Friends and Country Girls. Until then, I'm Carol.
I'm Joey.
And we'll talk to you soon.